We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to another episode of Your Lore Questions Answered, where I answer your lore questions, if that wasn't already obvious in the title. Although who knows what the title is by this point, I probably have changed it. And of course, as usual, if you want your question answered in the future, make sure you leave it in the comments below. And today's question, we're actually going to be doing two questions because they're related so much, but they ask slightly different things, both of which I want to talk about in the same video. Question number one is from Terpyderp. Out of all the Imperium, why are Deathwatch the only chapter allowed to wield xenos weapons, such as the Xenophase blade? So first off, they're not a chapter. They're a coalition of chapters that send their best of their best of their best, sir. And then they are put into service for so long into the Deathwatch, and if they survive it, they can go back to their chapters. But still the question remains, why are they the only ones allowed to use xenos weapons? So this leads us to the second question, which I have to kind of answer first before the first question makes sense. And the second question is from Swidbald. Why are Imperium of Man so xenophobic? For those of you who don't know, xenophobic means you have a fear of other species. In this case, alien species. So it's basically racism, except instead of black people versus white people, it is humans versus Eldar, humans versus Tau, humans versus Tyranids. The reason they're so xenophobic is because they feel that they have to be in order to preserve their humanity. Now, they're not as xenophobic as you might think. I want to just put that out there. That when you read the codexes and the rule books for Warhammer 40k, they come across as very like, this is the way things are. We're talking about a galaxy of hundreds of millions of stars and hundreds of millions of worlds. For every rule, there are 100 exceptions to that rule. And xenophobia is no exception. There are plenty of novels that I've read in 40k where they are totally fine with interacting with other xenospecies. Typically, though, that is further away from Earth, further away from the influence of the High Lords of Terra, further away from those that are very xenophobic. But as a rule, though, it is correct to say that the Imperium of Man is incredibly xenophobic. Essentially, they want to be the only species alive in all of the galaxy. They believe, for some reason, that they have claim to a galaxy that they have only really begun to develop in the past tens of thousands of years, when it's been around for billions of years, and there's clear evidence that there have been species around millions of years before them, aka the Necrons and the Eldar. Orcs are everywhere, and the Tyranids showing up is a clear indication that, sorry, mankind, you are not the most important thing in all of the universe. Why do we keep repeating this theme? Well, it's because this is fiction, and when we write our fiction, we like to echo the current sentiments of what is happening today. And of course, racism and prejudice is still a problem on Earth today. And so we're just kind of taking that theme and extending it to the galaxy. But instead of races within humanity, it is humanity versus other aliens. It's a very common theme in different games. So really the answer to your question, why are they xenophobic, is because Games Workshop wants them to be so, because in their mind it makes them interesting and that we have some sort of level of conflict. But let's step back and think of actual lore reasons why they might be xenophobic. Well, first off, as humanity's gone out, they've come across a lot of different xenospecies, and the majority of those are not very friendly. Orcs, for example, I don't think that humans and orcs could ever live together. Unlike what Warcraft did to orcs, which is perfectly fine, I don't think Games Workshop will ever be like, oh, the orcs were actually being possessed by a demon, and we defeat that demon, now they're free and they can just be savage like humans. It's like, no, orcs really won't ever be that way, and I don't want them to be. They are awesome the way they are. You be you, orc. You be you. And the orcs just love to fight. They love their might is right society. It might sound like a horrible thing to a human, but orcs love it. Gretchen, not so much, but orcs love it. They just love that society, and they just want to fight, and they just continue to be that way. So they will always not be compatible with humanity. And so humanity really does need to kind of be like, if we see an orc, you kill it. You just assume that you're going to kill it. The Eldar are not like the orcs in the sense that they just want to kill everything, but if the humans are filled with pride, the Eldar make the humans look humble by comparison, because the Eldar are like, no, we are the superior race, even though we too have not been around really for that long compared to how long the galaxies have been around, and we were even created by somebody else. We are the superior race for some reason. They're just basically egotistical elves, as we expect them to be. And so humans realize that the Eldar, in the end, don't want the humans alive. They'll use humans, they'll work with humans, but only to further their own end. Like, if they can sacrifice 1 billion humans to save 10 Eldar, they will. Even though they just worked with those billion humans for the past 100 years, they will, without any hesitation, kill them. So the humans really shouldn't trust the Eldar, and for the most part, should work against them. Or when they do work with them, because in the end it is a mutual beneficial thing, it shouldn't be very long term. Then we have the Tyranids. There's no real reason why humans should ever try to work with Tyranids, because Tyranids will just try to eat you. It's like trying to work with a piranha. You just don't do it. You either put it in a tank and observe it and feed it fish, or you just stay far, far away from it. And so on and so forth. There have been some, like the Tau are probably the closest thing to a race that we could probably get along with, and even they are bent on taking over the entire galaxy, even though they're just a fledgling race as well. And so they see humans more just as another species to envelop into their society as well, not to allow to grow and be dominant in the galaxy. So really the answer to your question, Swidbald, why are the Imperium of Man so xenophobic, is because so far the other xenospecies have not given them very much reason to not be xenophobic, and they need to fight that. And you know, the chaos is a whole separate thing, but the xenophobic thing kind of makes sense with how nasty all of these different species actually are. Now, coming back to Terpy Derp's question, out of all the Imperium, why are Deathwatch the only chapter, or the only Space Marines, more appropriately allowed to wield Xenos weapons? This one I can actually answer perfectly, because I read the Beast Arises series, which was actually a pretty good series, some books better than the other. I do recommend it. It could have probably been done in 6 books rather than 12, but overall I did enjoy the Beast Arises series. The Beast Arises series happens a few thousand years before current present-day Imperium. And in that, we actually see the birth of the Deathwatch, the very first Deathwatch. In fact, we even see the first time they paint their armor black. The first time that they actually grab a few guys from different chapters, they all show up, and more than half of them, for some reason, had all decided to paint their armor black. And they're like, oh, you decided it too? Oh, you decided it too? Oh, you... So they're like, they felt this big connection. And they were facing the orc threat of the Great Beast. And unfortunately, one of the technologies they needed to use in order to get in and be able to do their guerrilla warfare style missions was orc teleporters. And it always talked about how they hated doing it, that whenever they teleported, they always felt blood in their mouth, they always felt violated, like they shouldn't have done that. And they had these discussions about why they were using Xenos technology, which was like something you just did not do. It was faux pas to the extreme. And the one of them said to the other, he's like, we use Xenos technology so that nobody else has to. And that's how they justified it. So it became a thing that they're like, we will use it. We will sacrifice our souls and ourselves. We will use the Xenos technology so that nobody has to. That's at least how it started. And then over time, it probably just became a thing where, yeah, it was acceptable. And maybe the Space Marines were like, cool, I get to use this blade now. I don't have to just throw it out because it's really cool. It's like an Eldar blade, or it's a Necron blade. That's really good. But you also have to be careful. Like, Xenos weapons may have unknown side effects that you're just not aware of because, well, they haven't been studied enough, or you just yourself are not educated enough in how to use it. So they use Xenos weapons because when the Deathwatch were founded, they decided that they would for the better of all mankind, because they realized that the best way to do their job was they needed the Xenos machinery, and so they would use it so they could defeat the Xenos so that others would not have to use it. So that is the answer to the question of why they can. Thank you for your questions, Swidbald and Terpy Derp, and I love your usernames, by the way. If you'd like your question answered, make sure you leave it in the comments below. Also, if you would like to support this show and the many other shows that we create, make sure you become a Vault member. You can do so for free, for a free trial at the link below, miniwargaming.com/vault trial. If you're already a Vault member, thank you so much. You have no idea how much we appreciate you guys and you gals for helping us to be able to do this. This is our full-time job. Everybody here is full-time, and this is what we do. So you enable that, and that's a good thing. Thank you so much. So I will see you in the next episode. Happy wargaming.